This episode is brought to you by Koburi Digital. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Entrepreneur Rush. I'm Emil Mikkelsen.
And I'm Thomas Schöpf. Today we'll be talking about TikTok, right? It's an up-and-coming platform. It's actually incredibly popular by now, but a lot of businesses aren't really sure of how to use it, whether they should use it at all. People are worried that their market segments aren't on there. Emil, where do we start? What's the first thing to kind of consider?
Well, I'd like to address that for a second because it's interesting, right? We've seen this before when Facebook came out initially. It's not for my business. It's just for young people, just for people at university. And now we're seeing the same thing with TikTok. Apparently, it's not for them, right? Apparently, TikTok is not big enough. It's only for 16-year-olds. And the data is showing something completely different. We have older people on TikTok. In fact, it's currently the third biggest social media in the US in terms of active users. Engagement levels are through the roof. It's one of the most downloaded apps in the App Store. It's solved its data problems with China, and I think it's going to continue to rise. And unless YouTube, Instagram, and those other social medias are going to be better at adapting to some of what TikTok is bringing in terms of how easy it is to promote content and produce content, I think we're gonna be in for a social media that's around to stay.
So, in your opinion, right, what makes TikTok different from other social media platforms? What drives people to TikTok instead of, staying on YouTube where they can watch videos or watching videos on Facebook or Instagram? What's the main difference here?
I think it lies in the aspect of simplicity. I mean, TikTok decided to be a mobile-only app as one of the first ones. Instagram has aspects of it, but TikTok truly is 100% cell phone-based. Further, it's just so easy to produce content, and that's the main advantage it has. Like, a lot of people want to be on YouTube. People loved YouTube and engaging in it, but it's a lot harder to produce YouTube content than it is on TikTok. With TikTok, you take out your phone, you start filming, you produce the content, you have easy-to-add music, in-app editing, etc., right? You don't need to have skills in editing or software. You just have to be creative, and then you can produce content, which means that way more content is produced. And then you have a great algorithm that, helps the users see the things they want to see. And that in turn means more content producers, more users, more engagement. And this is basically the recipe for a successful social media.
I love the analysis there, right? It really shows what's different about TikTok, but also where is social media going in the future, right? We have seen different platforms incorporate some of the stuff you've been talking about, right? The ease of, not the ease of use, but the ease of content creation. And like you said, right, that's definitely a direction we're going in as people start creating more and more content on easier to use platforms. But the content on TikTok right now, right? It's so easy to use. People are making videos of themselves dancing to music, funny skits, backed by music as well. Where's the place kind of for businesses? Is it not more of a free time activity, of something where you go to enjoy yourself rather than watch something about, an up and coming business?
Well, I mean, first of all, business is a lot of things, right? It's not just selling software to other businesses, although that's certainly becoming very popular in recent times, right? It's also about e-commerce, which completely relies on this engagement and this casual aspect of entertainment. But even beyond entertainment and typical e-commerce, there's a great potential for organic outreach. I mean, since it's such a new and rising platform, organic is gigantic. It reminds me of early days Facebook. It reminds me of what LinkedIn was a while ago. You will reach massive audiences. It's not unreasonable to get 100, 200, 300,000 followers with relatively decent content. So I think there's a huge amount of potential on there. And the aspect is just great because let's go back to the simplicity of use. I mean, say you're a lawyer and you want to give day-to-day tips to people that are starting a new company. Sure that the segment on TikTok is not tailored for it, but there are a lot of people on there that's interested in it, and you might not be great at producing content, so YouTube for you might be overwhelming. Maybe you'll get, a few videos produced and then you stop. But on TikTok, you can easily put out a video a day and you can build that organic following. And despite the social media platform perhaps not being intended for educating on law or accounting, you'll manage to get a huge following, you'll manage to succeed. So I really think it's a platform for everyone. Of course, there's a core segment. Of course, it's more younger people, and dancing is certainly one of the big aspects of TikTok. But if you're just slightly creative, you'll see that there's massive potential for pretty much any kind of business, and of course, some more so than others.
Right, that's what I love about TikTok right now. There's so much emphasis on creativity because there are so many options. And so when you go on there as someone who's for example, giving away free legal advice or explaining different aspects of medicine and so on, preparing med students or giving them an idea of what the degree will be like. No one else is doing that. So there's no competition. Everyone's eyes are on you, and there's nothing to thin down the message because as humans, right, we like diversity. We don't want to see the same video 1,500 times. So as we're scrolling through or swiping through TikTok, we're going to be seeing, or the average user is going to be seeing 5 or 6 videos of trendy dances, funny skits, and then they're going to come across your video. And your video will stand out. They'll follow and like it and so on. And there's no one else there who's going to draw attention on that aspect, on that topic, for the same reasons. And so you'll be able to fully saturate, to fully get into people's heads so that when they think of lawyer, they think of you. And that's kind of the connection you want to be building there.
Yeah, and I think the beauty of it is that TikTok has an amazing algorithm. I mean, it's not quite there for advertising yet, but in terms of organic ability to show content depending on what people want, it's amazing. And you're seeing the content you want to see. So even if the large majority of TikTok want to see a certain kind of content, like as you pointed out, Thomas, you'll stand out and have an advantage by doing something different, but you'll also be hitting that part of the audience that's actually interested in you. It does not matter that 80 or 90% don't want law advice or, insight into how the medicine degree works, because there's a percentage of the major audience that wants to. I mean, there's such a big audience, you have pretty much everything, and the algorithm will help you get in front of those people. So yeah, I think that the potential is just massive. It's for everyone. And I think now we're emphasizing, doing something unique and different. I don't think that's the only opportunity. By all means, if you're an influencer or a typical content creator, TikTok, is your core segment. Do that as well. I think the point is just that it goes beyond that, right?
I mean, back to the niche thing, right? I mean, I totally agree, right? If that is your segment, if 90% of TikTok is your segment, that's great. The opportunities are still incredibly massive. But for those people who think, right, maybe only 10% of TikTok is interested in what I'm saying, that's 10% of the largest platform, of the third largest platform in the US, right? That's 10% of millions of people with no competition. And so those numbers always kind of, they might sound small, the 10 or 5%, but at the end of the day, that's a huge number. There's huge potential.
Oh, it's absolutely massive. It's pretty much enough to run just about any business. And on this topic, I think there's something interesting that I read not too long ago. If you're going on to YouTube right now, because of just how big it is and how large the competition is, there's videos on pretty much anything. I mean, even the most creative things. You're going to have to be just about the best to succeed, right? You're going to have to show up in the 4 or 5 first search results. So if you're a lawyer giving out advice, you better be amazing on camera. You better be entertaining. You better understand the audience. You better completely understand how YouTube and its algorithm works. You need to work with YouTube SEO. You need to combine advertising. You need to build your brand. If you get on TikTok right now, if you already got onto TikTok, you'll realize that you no longer have to be the best because you were there before a lot of the other people. So you understood the platform and perhaps you're quite good, but you're not top 3, top 4. Well, you'll still have success. And that's the beauty of any new and rising platform. This is exactly what we saw in early days of Facebook and Instagram, where you could make results with just about any organic post and just about any ad, which is interesting why now people are leaving Facebook saying, it's become too expensive or too difficult. It really hasn't. It's just you are used to Facebook being way too easy. And that's where TikTok is currently.
First mover advantage, right? What a difficult thing to work against, to overcome when you come to the platform late. And now with TikTok, you have the opportunity to be one of the first ones there, despite it already being so big. That's a crazy thing, right? It's the third biggest platform, but the amount of creators that are there are much, much less, or the number is much smaller than it should be in relation, right? The ratio is very, very skewed. And that's where I think there's a ton of potential. Now, you mentioned advertising a couple minutes earlier. What exactly, there's not a lot of advertising on TikTok yet. Not a lot of people are able to advertise on TikTok yet. What does that look like? What's kind of the quick introduction you can give us before we move into the more technical details?
Yeah, absolutely. I actually had an interesting conversation with our TikTok consultant not too long ago. So as an agency, we're looking to have some special access. And, when it comes to advertising, it's usually rolled out in betas, and we were one of the lucky agencies. And so I got to ask a lot of questions to TikTok themselves. And one of the things I asked is, you know, how do you imagine the platform working in terms of advertising? You know, who's it going to make sense for? How does it work? What are some insights you can give us? And so the way it works currently with TikTok advertising is that you have 4 kinds of ads. We're not going to go too in depth about the types that there are, but basically there's one of those 4 that's interesting to the average business, which is in-feed ads, as we know them from Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. So basically ads that in one way or another show up in the feed. The other types are more advanced and are for more large-scale branding and very expensive, so we won't cover them today. The interesting thing about the in-feed ads in TikTok and how it's actually envisioned by TikTok themselves is that it's not meant to be advertising that stands out. And so if you want success on TikTok, you need to adjust to their universe. You can't just take your content from elsewhere. Because the thing that makes TikTok advertising so successful is that you have really engaged people using the platform. They're watching all of these videos, and suddenly an ad will slip in, and they don't really realize it's an ad until the last, couple of seconds. So the views you get are actually amazing, unlike on YouTube or Facebook, where the large majority barely views the video, or they view it because they think they had to, right? Here, people view it willingly, and although they might towards the end realize it's an ad, their feelings toward it are very different. And this is especially for the youth audience, which is not fans at all of advertising. This is an even bigger potential. So, in-feed ads are what's interesting on the advertising element. And in terms of what the platform is good for when it comes to advertising, I personally would connect it to Snapchat in its early days. I think it's amazing for anything that's based off of a mobile device. So if you have an app that's looking to get installs, I mean, there's no better platform right now than TikTok. You have to pour all of your money into getting app installs there. It's just so simple. There's such a huge audience that's engaged. If you can make your app seem interesting, whether that be a game or something more B2B heavy or a banking app, you're going to have a lot of success. Additionally, another avenue that I think is interesting, because we talked a lot about the organic reach, right? And there we gave a lot of B2B opportunities or more educational opportunities for lawyers or accountants. That's not really where advertising on TikTok is at. That's really the app installs and on e-commerce. If you have any seamless way of shopping through the phone, e-commerce is also just amazing on TikTok. TikTok themselves, though, said that for more expensive products, they don't believe the platform is going to be the go-to. So if you're selling products that cost several $100s, the journey is too long for TikTok. They're not as advanced yet to actually have all of those touch points. But if you're selling simple e-commerce products, you can sell a lot on TikTok. And the prices, the CPMs, what you're paying to get a view, they're just so low. I mean, it's early day Facebook all over again.
I love it, right? It's again the same kind of thing. The platform it's not necessarily underdeveloped, but there's no other advertisers there, right? So the potential, the amount of competition you have is zero, so no one else is bidding on that spot. No one else is bidding on that ad. And so that's what really lets you keep those low prices and then in turn make up for the lack of tracking capabilities.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's interesting here for all the entrepreneurs is that people hate to let go of winners, right? Like their search marketing is working, their Google ads are performing. They're not going to change. And that's why despite, TikTok having major potential and being so big, you're not seeing entrepreneurs moving part of their budget away from the traditional platforms they're used to. It's the same reason we're still seeing large-scale corporations throughout the US not even using digital or, allocating 10, 20% of their budgets while paying 10 times more for radio and TV and billboards. It's crazy to me. And I think this is the same thing, right? A lot of entrepreneurs make fun of the large corporations, a lot of marketers, for not following up, but they're doing the exact same thing. They're sleeping on TikTok like they used to sleep on LinkedIn, like they used to sleep on Snapchat, like they used to sleep on Facebook. They're sleeping. Marketers are sleeping. And I don't understand why. But it is this psychology. If I have something that works, I don't want to change it. And so I think that's just where TikTok is absolutely amazing. And you briefly mentioned underdeveloped. And I do think TikTok's advertising obviously is underdeveloped, right? They have a great organic algorithm, but technically they're not quite there. I talked to their consultant and they're using what they call session-based tracking. So basically, if something happens in your actual session, it'll be stored. But if someone leaves the app to then go to the website and purchase a product, or if they come back and do it later, you'll no longer have the tracking. So what they recommend is going old school, which, I'll touch upon it in just a second because that does make sense also because of iOS 14, right? They said use a discount code and you will be able to see how many people purchase, right? So you make a unique discount code or unique landing page for TikTok and you can now track everything through analytics or through your shop. And this makes sense beyond TikTok, right? Because although it's old thinking, we're seeing iOS 14, which is going to wipe upwards of 60% of all data from people that aren't willing to share it anymore. And that means that you're going to be losing a lot of this anyway. So you might have to just get used to UTMs or unique landing pages or discount codes anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, the world is changing. You better change with it, right?
Absolutely.
You're not going to be able to stop that. But we've been on this topic kind of, right, with with companies spending different amounts of money on different platforms, right? We like to call this the marketing mix. How exactly does that work on TikToks vis-a-vis organic and paid content? When do you consider, only doing organic content? When do you consider not doing organic and focusing on the paid stuff? Or when do you mix it, and to what extent do you mix it? How does that all work? Because on Facebook, right, we all know, right, you have the Facebook or Instagram page, you make organic posts, you make stories that all work well, and then you follow that up with ads.
Yeah, super interesting question. And I think different people will have different opinions on this. I'm sure as a huge fan of Facebook, you're going to tell people to leave a part of their budget there. And I think I'm going to have to agree, but with the big but depending on what you do. Really, if you're trying to drive app installs, so if you have an easy to sell e-commerce product, I would probably look towards spending 70, 80% of your budget on TikTok. Like, I would go that far. I would be willing to go all in on that platform in these aspects because I truly believe in it. And I think it's very easy to switch back to the old guard. It's still going to be there. But if you're sleeping on TikTok, that opportunity is gone. Now, if you're not in one of those super ideal advertising ones, I would have a different kind of marketing mix. I would perhaps focus more or less entirely organically on TikTok, right? So just produce content, use their algorithm to go out far, and keep your advertising budget on more traditional platforms where people will then go and search for your product after they've interacted on TikTok. So, it really depends where you are, but I would say anywhere between, full organic to 70, 80% of your ad budget, and then keeping the core, a little bit on Facebook, LinkedIn, Google to catch people on the flip side. But that's just about it for me. Like, I do think TikTok has huge potential, and although the organic is absolutely amazing, don't sleep on the advertising aspect either.
Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree. The mix of paid and organic, and the entire marketing mix of different platforms always really depends on the business, on the industry you're in, and kind of how you're trying to connect with your customers, right? And on TikTok, I find it actually really interesting because you do have this kind of, you have e-commerce businesses advertising their products, and often, as you mentioned this a couple of minutes back, right, I find myself looking at an ad, not realizing it's an ad until the product is displayed. And at that point, they've gone past the 8 seconds where you've already committed to the video. And so you're much more likely to finish, and see where the story's kind of going. And, but when it comes to business, for example, lawyers putting out free content, there's no point in advertising that. You want to get people who are actually legitimately interested in your content, and so then it does make sense to put out organic videos. And yeah, obviously, right, I'm a fan of Facebook. I think there's so much you can do there. But for some people, it does make sense to switch to TikTok, and for others, it doesn't. So you really have to consider, what's my strategy? How am I going forward? What makes most sense? What makes most sense for me to be on the two platforms with?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, some of the technical things you can do on the more established platforms in terms of creating funnels, having several digital touch points, selling software products, and other of those longer customer journey ones, like, you can't do that on TikTok right now. And in that case, TikTok can become yet another platform to provide a digital touch point, either organically or through an ad. But it's not going to be a platform where you can place the majority of your ads. It's simply not developed for that. So really, it is for those kind of businesses who have an opportunity there, who perhaps aren't seeing the success they need on other platforms, or who want to diversify a bit, or who, truly just needed exactly what it's providing, that kind of engagement-driven advertising, basically Snapchat on steroids, right? I mean, that's what TikTok is in that regard. Like, app installs are easy to provide on both Instagram and Snapchat, but it's a whole different game when it comes to TikTok. So yeah, I couldn't agree more, Thomas, right? Consider what your business is, what you're trying to achieve, your current marketing mix and budget, and most of all, just don't be afraid to try out TikTok regardless of everything. Like, I think every business should try to run an ad on there. Every business should try to put out organic content because it's a platform that you need to understand, because even if you don't want to use TikTok, the other platforms are going to adjust. And before we know it, YouTube is also going to be focused on easier content creation. I know they're already working on this. And before we know it, there's going to be an built-in Photoshop for Instagram where you can put out, that type of content. So if anything, it's a learning experience, and just about any business should be able to more or less, go even and make a smaller profit given the low CPMs on there.
Totally with you there. And I love the fact that, you have to approach it differently on TikTok. You can't take the same on Facebook, Instagram, these newer these older platforms, sorry. You have all these, incredibly attractive tools where you can do everything. You can track everything. And obviously, there's barriers, there's challenges to overcome, especially now with iOS 14. But at the end of the day, what you do is you take someone who's doesn't know about your business, who's not necessarily interested in your product yet, and you show them, why they should be considering your product or your business, why they need your product or service. And then, you bring them along that funnel. You are there with them every step of the way. And that's just not something you can do with TikTok yet. So you have to improvise. You have to adapt and overcome that challenge. You have to figure out, how do I work with this? How do I use what I have at my disposal to take advantage of the platform? Because at the end of the day, there is a ton of potential there. You can take advantage of it. You'll just have to do it differently than you would have on Facebook.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is more speculating than anything, but I think you have a pretty short window, actually, because I think what will happen sooner than later is that TikTok will become a platform where advertising is pretty much only for large-scale businesses. I think we will be having corporations and larger companies place massive ad budgets there to get their app installs rolling, to get that sort of generic engagement they need, because like you said, you don't have several touch points. So you really need to provide value in that single ad, which is hard if you're a new and rising brand to convince people that they need to commit. But say you're Amazon, reminding them of Prime in an intelligent way, or you're Netflix promoting a new video, in these aspects, all you need is their interests, which you can target on TikTok, and a single ad can provide a lot of value. I mean, say you're a large store that has a new protein blend in or something like that, right? I think these kind of ads, sort of the old TV ads, I think they're going to be dominating on TikTok before we know it. But for now, the CPMs are low. They're not yet there, and you can do it. And interestingly, I think for organic, you're going to be having a huge advantage as a smaller company, because finally, organic has become very easy to produce, and a lot of large-scale companies aren't innovating at that level. They don't actually pay enough attention to this. They have these amazing ads and greater content, but the day-to-day activity they don't really compete very well on, and that's an opportunity for the smaller companies. So I think short-term, huge potential for everyone advertising. Long-term, smaller companies are probably going to have to move towards organic.
Absolutely love it. Yeah, I mean, the tools you have at your disposal are different. You are able to create content much more easily, and that will make starting up easier, right? You don't need to pay $50,000 for a promotional video. You put out, at low cost to yourself, what do you need? Your phone, and you put out 15, 20 videos, and then a video every day, 2 videos every day, and you really start connecting with your audience.
Absolutely, because the thing about organic on TikTok is you're selling yourself, and people love the products that Apple produce, but in actuality, a lot of people don't have a relationship to Apple themselves. But, a personal tech guy that talks about his life and shares insights, that's something people can relate to. And that kind of engagement is really what drives organic on TikTok. So in that regard, you have an advantage. So it's easy to produce content, but at the same time, people don't want perfect content on TikTok. They don't want the over-edited content. They want you to tap into the universe of TikTok. And that's why a final note I want to put is, like I briefly mentioned it earlier, but if you want to succeed on TikTok, whether organic or advertising, do not use the same content you use elsewhere. It's a unique platform. You need to tap into it. You need to look at other videos, see how the algorithm works and how people interact. It's a different beast. It works completely different. It's much more down to earth. It's much more about engagement. There are elements of humor and dancing, but that's not the only thing that you need to look out for. So, before you put your content there and get disappointed, learn a bit more about the platform and then start pushing content.
So now we've talked a lot about, we've summarized TikTok, right? We've talked about everything we can in less than 30 minutes, right? We've tried to fit everything in, but let's boil it down even more. What's the, what's the 3-4 sentence conclusion to take from this? What's the driving force, right? This is a podcast. No one's writing, no one's going to remember everything we said, but what do they need to remember?
You're asking me to do this in 3-4 sentences. All right, let's see. That was the first 2 gone. No. So in actuality, right, let me try to boil it down as much as I can. So TikTok has a huge organic potential right now. If you're going to join in, there's an opportunity for everyone. Also, businesses that normally, wouldn't fit in there. So whether you're a lawyer, an accountant, or whether you're e-commerce or a typical content creator, don't sleep on TikTok. Advertising currently is amazing there. It's not as developed. It's not as complicated, though, at the same time. The cost per impression, the cost to reaching customers is super low. So everyone has potential. It's not going to be there for long because I expect large-scale companies will take over. But for now, you have an opportunity. And I think those are sort of the three key takeaways. And most of all, what I want to say is, don't just say, yes, I agree, I want to do it. Go and actually do it. I've had so many conversations as a consultant with agencies in recent times. They're telling people, yeah, you have to get on TikTok. We're taking the courses, we're interacting. And then I ask them, are you running TikTok ads? And they're like, no, it's not for us. And that's just hilarious because that's exactly what they're telling other people to do. I know that both Thomas and I are actively using TikTok, and we will continue to advertise on there for the foreseeable future. All right, everyone, that's it for today's episode on TikTok, a very interesting one, a platform that has had a lot of controversy, but you just cannot deny its growth anymore. You cannot deny its popularity and its amazing ability to draw in more people by virtue of a great algorithm and by virtue of an easy program to use in terms of content creation. I love TikTok. I think it's going to be around for a while. Don't sleep on it. There's a lot of potential. And now's the time to share and subscribe.